friends, it's Teacher Maria. On this episode of Nerdy Bugs Teacher Corner, I'm going to share with you 5 more things that you can do with your preschool students online. Now for this episode in particular, I'm actually going to show you 5 games that you probably heard about before, you probably played them before, but the thing is I'm going to show you how we can play them online and how we can play them with 3-year-old students. Okay, so the first game that I'm going to talk to you about is a game called I Went to Grandma's House. I wonder if you've heard about it. I actually discovered this game just a few months ago. In the description box, I'll link the channel where I found it. I think it's a really useful channel. In the video, she asked each student to say one thing that they brought to Grandma's house. But the catch is that each student has to say the things that the student before said. So if student A says, I went to Grandma's house and I brought a bag. Student B has to say, I went to Grandma's house and I bought a bag and a stuffed toy. And then student C has to say the things that A and B said and then add one more thing. So I tried this a few times in my class. The first time I tried it, it was kind of a fail because they didn't really understand that they had to say the things that like person C didn't understand that they had to say what A and B said before they gave their example. So it was kind of messy. So I played it again the next day, but this time I gave them a simpler, modified version. So I'll call the first student and I'll say, okay, Sam, what do you want to bring to Grandma's house? And maybe Sam will say, I'm going to bring a flower. So I say, all right, so Sam's going to bring a flower. And I draw a flower. So for the first person, it's pretty easy because they only have to give one. But for the second person, I tell them, okay, so you're going to think of a new object. Can you think of a new object, Margot? And Margot will say, I went to Grandma's house and I want to bring a ball. I say, okay, a ball. So we'll draw a ball. And now you're going to say this and this. So I say, okay, Sam, can you say what did you bring to Grandma's house? I went, and she'll say, I went to Grandma's house and I brought a flower and a ball. Good job, Margot. And so that way, as you add objects, it's not super hard for them to remember. So when you do it this way, it doesn't test their memory as much. So I would suggest maybe doing it like this the first time or the first 2-3 times that you play this game. And then after, because they already got the point that they have to say what their classmates said first, maybe you can not use the whiteboard and then do the more difficult original version that I showed in the video. Okay, so the next activity that you can do with your preschool students online is a follow along drawing activity. So you can use this activity to teach vocabulary, you can use it to teach shapes, or you can just do it for fun because I noticed that the kids really enjoyed this activity in class. So now let's teach them how to follow along our drawings. Say for example, your lesson is the letter P. So maybe I want to teach them how to draw a pizza, but I'm not going to tell them that we're drawing a pizza, okay? So we're going to start by drawing a triangle. Can you follow Teacher Maria's triangle? Make a slanted triangle. Now I did specifically say that this video is for modified versions of games. So how can you modify this to make it easier for them? You can ask help from the guardian. So for example, if my student is having a hard time drawing this, maybe I'll ask the guardian to draw 3 dots. And that way the student has to connect the dots like that. And they can still get the triangle, but it's not as abstract for them. They have guides as to where they need to go. And then maybe I'll tell them, all right, now let's draw a line from here to here. Over there to make a rectangle. And again, if they're having a hard time doing this, then I'll tell the guardian to draw 2 dots and the kids just have to connect them. Okay, easy. And then we'll say, let's draw some circles inside the triangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually we can draw circles by this age. 1, 2, 3, 4. What did you draw? You made a pizza. Good job. Pizza starts with the letter P. Pizza. And again, you can use this for different types of lessons. Just make sure that the drawing is not too difficult. And if there's a part of the drawing that's too difficult, just ask help from their guardian to make little guides for them to follow. All right, on to the next game. Okay, so the next game is Simon Says. And I'm pretty sure you've heard about this game before, so I'll keep my suggestion for this one short and sweet. So the only thing that I changed to make it more understandable for the 3-year-old students is that I always add a name before the action. So for example, the actions that they do have to follow are the ones that Simon says. But if somebody else tells them to do the action, then they don't do the action. So for example, Simon says jump, and then they jump. Simon says stop, and so they stop. Peppa Pig says run. Are you going to follow Peppa Pig? No, only follow what Simon says. So yeah, that's just an easier, simpler way for you to play Simon Says with your students. Okay, so the next thing that you can do with your preschool students, even online, is to ask them questions of the day. So this it helps you get to know them better. It also helps them to improve their communication skills, okay? And it's honestly just a fun activity to do. So here's the thing, I have found a few resources online that have lists of questions of the day, mostly for kindergarten students. Now, kindergarten students are like 5, 6 years old. And today, I'm focusing more so on 3 to 4-year-olds, even 2-year-olds. So what's the problem? The resources that I found tend to be a bit complicated, a bit vague, and a bit abstract for the students that I'm trying to teach. Now, it's not to say, okay, that you can't expose them to abstract questions or complicated questions. It's just that when you do introduce them to more difficult questions, you need to bridge that gap of what they know and what they still can't understand. So what I did is I created a resource of 100 questions that you can ask 3-year-olds. Some of them are simpler in nature, and that's why you can ask 3-year-olds, but there are others that are a bit more complicated. It's just that I added prompt questions or guide questions to help them understand what you're asking. So I actually, to be honest with you, I haven't finished yet all 100, but I will make it my goal that by the time I upload this video on Friday, I will finish all 100 questions so that I can give you that resource and you can use that in your class with your 3-year-old students. Okay, so this last activity is musical chairs. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with musical chairs, right? Usually when we play this in person, we form a circle with our chairs, right? And the kids go around it. When the music stops, everybody has to sit down. And if you don't sit down on time, you're eliminated. You remove one chair and then you repeat the game. So for online, obviously you can't do that setup. So what I do is I let the students stand up and I let them go far away from their chair. So their chair is near the computer and then I ask them to stand a few meters away. And then I play music, which I let them choose, by the way. If the music is playing, they dance, and if the music stops, they have to run back to their chair and sit down. So that's just a simpler way that you can do it online. It asks them to move a bit more. They find the running part really exciting. So yeah, you can just do that a few rounds. They enjoy it. If you have extra time that day, you can do 2 songs until you're ready to move on to your next activity. So that wraps up the 5 activities and games that you can play with your preschool students online, with your 3-year-old preschool students online. I hope it was helpful to you. I really hope you got something from it. So if you are pre-K, a K, or a mom with a pre-K student, I feel like this channel could be very useful to you. And I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. That does also help me out a lot. So I think that's all for today. Bye!